Hello and happy Christmas. Welcome to Fiber and Floral, a mostly knitting podcast. I am so excited because when I'm releasing this, it is officially going to be the Christmas season. It is the first day of December and the first Sunday of Advent. Timed it well. And I am just so excited. I feel like it is a fact. I have been prepping for Christmas since June when I started my first Christmas sweater, and it is finally here. And with the Christmas season comes one of my favorite things on YouTube, Vlogmas. So traditionally, Vlogmas is when vloggers, YouTubers, will post a video a day, kind of sharing a little bit of their life, what they're working on, projects. I really love watching the knitting community's Vlogmas. I think I basically discovered the knitting community on YouTube through Laura Penrose's Vlogmas that she does every year. And so I wanted to do something like that of my own. However, I know that I am not going to manage a video every day, nor do I really want to. So I thought I would do a video every week and release it on every Sunday, to kind of with a different theme. So today's is going to be all about Christmas sweaters. I'm going to be showing you the 4 Christmas sweaters that I made for my family, how I sewed on beads to my daughter's sweater, and then kind of recommending some ways that if you don't have a Christmas sweater, ways that you can kind of spruce up some of your sweaters to make them Christmassy for the season. Or just a real quick project like in the evenings. We have too much time at this point because Christmas is about making memories with those that you love and enjoying the season and not stressfully finishing something at this point. So I wanted to come up with some quick ways that you could Christmify, if you will, your sweaters. So I'm glad you're here. I hope you grab a cup of something warm and some knitting. And now, yeah, thanks for being here. So I'll start out with what I'm wearing first. You guys have seen this before, but it is finally time for me to wear it, even though, to be honest, I've already worn it 4 or 5 times already, and I'm definitely going to wear it tonight. We're going to make gingerbread houses with my daughter's little friend group and their parents, and even though it's not quite Christmas, I'm going to wear it. Um, this is the Holly sweater by Knitting for Olive in their, oh goodness, I'm so bad at this. The merino is, and then I think for the motif, I used bottle green and red robin for the merinos. If you're interested in all the details, I'm really bad about keeping things like that in my brain, but all of it's written on my Ravelry, which I will post to below. I This was also my first sweater with holding 3 strands of color work at the same time, and then there's an added challenge of the red, you're doing bobbles while also doing straighted color work held 3 colors. So it was a huge challenge, however, and yeah, I did not necessarily enjoy the 8 rows of 3 color work, but I made it through. It did take about an hour per row, but we did it, and it's absolutely stunning. I know this will be a sweater that I cherish for years to come. I also want to add that this does include short rows for the shoulders and the neckline, as well as short rows for the underarm to kind of even out. So when you knit in a circle yoke, what happens is you can see like even though this is the same line, the shoulders end up being higher than the front. And so what can happen at the edge is that this kind of comes up, which some people like that effect, and there are definitely knit circle yoke sweaters where I do really like that. However, she includes short row shaping along the edge to kind of to where it all evens out. The hemline is flat, you can see here, and I think I actually do prefer that. I've since incorporated her short row instructions into other circle yokes that I've done because I do kind of like how it flattens out. And then what happens is, like, you do the short rows and you end up being like here, and so it feels like you've done 8 rows of short rows, but it feels like you have 2 inches of side already done. So it kind of makes it go a little bit faster as well, because you feel like you've done a lot suddenly. So I wanted to mention that. And now I will show you. So this is the holly sweater adult. There is also a holly sweater kit that I knit my youngest, and I'm seeing now that I still have to sew in my ends. So good that I'm recording this 2 days before I'm planning on having to wear it. I will do that after this video. But this is the holly sweater kids. Now that I'm holding this, I do think I used a different merino white. I think I might have used like snowflake or snow, which is like a cooler tone than cream, but I don't really think you could tell. I think the merino really, or the marzipan mohair, inwards, man, really kind of takes over the color. But yeah, and then everything else is the same. I used one strand or one skein of bottle green and one strand of the red for both of our sweaters, and the green also was enough for my daughter's sweater, which I'll show you now. I wanted to do something a little bit different for hers, but that's still, like, the colors are still the same. It's using the same yarn that I used, but this is the Jingle Bell sweater by Hannah Rimmon. This is a free pattern. I've said this multiple times in the podcast, but I cannot believe she has made this free. She has a free version in kids, women's, and men's, and stunner of a pattern. So I knit this up for my daughter, and she looked at it and was like, it's not colorful enough. I don't want to wear it. Which is kind of a theme of our relationship right now. So I basically started where, like, she picks out the fabric, she picks out the pattern, and still, like, even then sometimes she will not wear what I make her. So we're in a phase. But to compromise, because I'd already knit the sweater up, I have added beads, and it's hard to see in this lighting, so I'll make sure to do a little video, but I have added beads to all of the Christmas trees, and I did 3 different motifs, if you will, or 3 different designs on the Christmas tree to kind of add some variation, and I just love how it turned out. I could definitely see myself knitting the women's version for myself next year and also doing beads on the Christmas tree, because I think it's just really cute. It makes me really happy. She was also really happy to see it when she came in the other night when I was doing it. She got so excited. Was like, oh, I love it. I picked out all her favorite colors. I did some purple and some pink and some red and some gold, and she just loves it. And I watched some videos on how to sew beads onto knits, and then kind of realized I was doing my own thing anyways. And so I wanted to do a quick tutorial on how I actually found helpful to sew on these beads onto this sweater. So that'll be after this. So hang on, or just skip ahead if you're very interested. And then my last sweater, which closes out the great Christmas sweater project of 2024, was also Hannah Rimmon's free pattern. And I believe the men's version is called Let It Snow. Here's the front. It is my husband's Christmas sweater. I knit it in Pure Ghent in bottle green. I don't believe their things have color, but it's the same. It's a very similar color to Knitting for Olive's bottle green, but I'll post the color number on my Ravelry page. All the details will be there. I made a size 2 for him. This was my first time knitting with Pure Ghent, and I didn't realize that for me, it is very much a worsted gauge, not a DK gauge, even with 4mm needles. So I was knitting my second sweater motif. You have the option of knitting 1 line of trees or 2 lines, and I was originally going to do 2, but then I was looking at it and I was like, oh, this is huge. I tried it on him and it was swallowed him. So I ripped back and kind of did a little hacking, and we just settled on the 1 motif, and it does fit. It's definitely a little bigger than I would have intended or would have imagined. And I think the shoulders around the fit is a little funky, but he's really happy with it. And it looks really beautiful. It matches my daughter with the one line, so that worked out. And yeah, he woke up this morning. Like I finished sewing in the ends last night. It's all blocked and ready to go. And he just like put it on over his pajamas and was wearing it around the house this morning. He was just so excited about it. So I'm really glad. I was really worried it wasn't going to end up right, but he loves it and is really happy with it. And I'm happy to be done. So those are all the Christmas sweaters that I have knit this year. I started June 1st and ended about a week ago now is when I finished knitting this. I still had to block and sew in the ends, but so about 5 months. I did take a break when I went on my trip to the States. So about a month per sweater is what I averaged. I do think I would love to knit, like as my daughters grow, I do envision knitting more for them. And I would definitely start earlier, giving myself like a whole month. I think you could probably knit, like especially a kid's one. I think I knit this in 3 weeks without even trying. It just goes so fast. But so I think you could like knit, this is a size 2, probably like a week. But I don't like this, like knitting's supposed to be fun and relaxing for me, so I don't love giving myself deadlines like that. But so I think in the future I will give myself like a month, and I would love to start in like August or September again. So yeah, I'm really happy. And those are my Christmas sweaters this year. Stick around and I will show you how I sewed on beads to my daughter's sweater, and I'll show you how I'll give you some ideas of how you can spruce up some sweaters that maybe you already have laying around. Maybe you don't have time to knit yourself a sweater anymore this year, but there are some easy kind of quick evening projects that I think you could do to kind of Christmify, if you will, the sweaters that you already have. So yeah. And the theme of each video, I wanted to knit up a little knitted ornament, I wanted to knit up an ornament that had to do with a theme. And so for Christmas sweaters, I did a cute little Christmas sweater. This is a free pattern. I forget the name, so I'll post it right here. A lot of you have recommended this, and so it's nothing new, but I had the best time with it. It took me maybe 2 hours, and I think it's gonna be really lovely. It's just some scraps. I think it took maybe 2 or 3 grams of every color. I did a stripy version, just using what I had around, and I'm gonna take some craft wire that I have and do a little hanger and hang it on my Christmas tree. So yeah, if you're looking for knitted ornaments, this is a great one to add to your plans. And I was knitting this during my daughter's ballet class. It's like attached to a cafe yesterday, and I was just sitting there knitting, drinking a little oat chai, and it was just all the Christmas vibes. It was just so sweet, and everyone around was just like, oh my gosh, a little sweater. So yeah, a little Christmas sweater for my tree. So is my sweater. I'm going to show you how I embroidered these beads onto this sweater. So I'm going to start, I've already done the front, and now I'm going to go on the back. As you can see, I've already kind of started a Christmas tree here. Instead of thread, I actually use mohair. Mohair is very strong, and so I think it is a good kind of thread replacement for this project, but you can also just use any thread. I've threaded my needle already, and I've come out the front of wherever place I want. I'm going to pick a color bead. I'm going to pick gold, put it on my needle, bring it all the way down to my sweater, and then I'm going to do a little duplicate stitch, just like that. If you've ever done a duplicate stitch, this should be really, you know how simple this is. And then typically with a duplicate stitch, you would just go right back into where your needle came out. But first, I'm going to go back through that bead again. You can see with my hands. So that way there is literally 4 strands of mohair in that bead. That is going to hold very well. And then I'm just going to run my needle back where that duplicate stitch started and bring it up where I want the next bead to go. Where do I want the next bead to go? Okay, so I'm just going to do that again, just like you would with a duplicate stitch. We're just adding a little bead, and I think I'm going to do a red now. And then once again, just running my needle through like duplicate stitch, bringing it back through the bead again. And then bringing it back. Make sure, I haven't done this yet, but it is helpful to make sure that like when I'm bringing my needle through like that to the next stitch, that you're not picking up from the front as well. I know that when I'm sewing sometimes, it hasn't happened with my sweater yet, but I know when I'm sewing buttons on that this can happen sometimes. So definitely something to be careful of. It would stink to embroider this whole Christmas tree and then have to go take it all out because you caught the front. So and once you get started and kind of figure out what technique works for you, like I said, I did watch a couple tutorials, and I don't think, I mean, I'm sure someone knows more about this than me. This is literally my first time. I'm just learning as I go. I thought I would share, but I really don't feel like there's a wrong way to do this as long as it's secure and you're not like keeping the knit from stretching. That is important, specifically. I mean, on the yoke, it's not so important, but if you're like adding beads to the sleeves or somewhere that does need to stretch, it is important to think about like, are you affecting the stretch of the garment? And I think that's why I like duplicate stitch so much, because once again, you're knitting in a way that doesn't keep the fabric from stretching. So and then once I've done my final bead on the tree, I will flip my sweater inside out and I will secure the stitch. I'm going to go in here a couple times. And then and there you have it. One Christmas tree done. So for my next Christmas tree, I just finished this one. For my next Christmas tree, I am going to just do a simple little star with 5 gold beads at the top. And I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to thread my needle with double-stranded mohair and double knot the end. And I might do this 2 or 3 times just for extra security. And then I'm going to put my finger where I want to start the star and then go underneath and do a little slip stitch. And I hope you can see this, but do you see how there's 2 strands of mohair? So I've gone underneath a stitch and then I'm putting my needle back through in the middle of the 2 strands. So it kind of creates a little slip knot there. And so it's very secure, but I'm going to do that once again, just in case. I'm not going to go all this work to have it slip. So I want to be super secure. And then I'm just going to put my needle onto the front. And so then I'm going to take 5 gold beads and push them down onto my needle. And something that also is important is needle size, and like in comparison to the radius of your bead is very important. Most of my beads have been fine. I have had a couple beads that I've had to put to the side because they're too small, and I'm just using like a normal embroidery needle, but you could also use a button needle and that's a little bit thinner, or a sewing needle, but something definitely to watch for depending upon the size of your beads. So I have my 5 beads in a row. The thread is coming out the front, and then I'm going to kind of loop back around and go through all 5 beads again. And I'm going to pull that really tight. And it is going to bring my beads in a kind of circle, star, flower, whatever shape you want to call that. And then I'm going to pick up the collar and I'm going to secure in between each bead. So first I'm going to secure the placement. I'm just going to go in and out of, and then in between every bead, I'm just going to do a little stitch. I'm going to go in and out. So in between this stitch now I'm going to go, and then I'm going to come out over here. So between every bead, I'm doing a little stitch to secure it in place. I'm going to go in over here and out. And that needs to go. You might have to help position the thread because the beads are so close together. And then my last one, I'm going to come back over and go back down to where we started and pull the needle through to the inside. Once again, watching my thread to make sure that it really gets in between those beads. And then I'm going to secure the needle just like I showed you when I finished the other tree, but there is my little star. Okay, so first things first, you're going to thread your needle. You could use normal sewing thread. Hope you can see that. That is absolutely fine. However, I actually decided to use mohair, so the mohair that I used for my Christmas tree, so that it really blends in and even adds a little bit of extra texture to the Christmas trees as I'm sewing the beads on. So I have my embroidery needle. You could also use just a normal sewing needle. I'm going to cut my mohair. I always recommend, when I teach my students how to use a needle and thread, I always recommend using your arm's length, but you can do whatever length you are comfortable with. And then I just wanted to give a quick tip, because I did find the mohair hard to get through this embroidery needle. Once again, depending on how wide your needle is, how furry your mohair is, it might be easy or hard. But one trick I have is, and I actually don't have a needle minder at home or a needle threader, but you could just take normal sewing thread and do a little loop like that. Stick the loop through your needle like that, so that it's going through the needle, and then thread your mohair through that loop. I hope this is making sense. And then you just pull that loop back out through your needle, and the mohair comes with it. So if you don't have a needle threader, I used to have them. I seem to have lost them. The thing with needle threaders is you can buy 100 pack and you will still not have any next week. So, but you can always just use sewing thread. And that's a lot easier to thread for me than the mohair was. So that's how I've been threading my needle. I spent probably 5 minutes threading mohair before I thought of that. So a little trick if you also want to use mohair to thread to embroider on your knits. So my needle is threaded, and I am going to first secure my thread to my Christmas tree. Okay, and now we're coming to the last tree I've done, which is these like lines. Let me see if I can find one. These lines of beads. And I think just like the combination of these 3 different trees together looks really festive. And I chose to do, my daughter's favorite colors are like pink and purple. And then, so I did like I alternated pink and purple and then red on this tree. And that contrasts well with the gold. So I feel like all the colors are actually used really equally in all the Christmas trees. So how I did that is, once again, I'm going to secure my needle in the back. I'm putting my hand where I want the needle, or where I want to start. I'm going to double secure it just in case, and then put my needle through to the front. And then how I did this one is, as each branch gets wider. And so I kind of did the same thing with my beads. I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beads on each branch. So the first branch is very easy. I'm just going to duplicate stitch like I've showed you before. Put my bead on. And then run it back through the bead. And then in the case, like with this Christmas tree, because the beads are so close together, I didn't really feel the need. I just went from like one stitch to the other, kind of underneath. But because these branches are so far away, I didn't really necessarily want a line of mohair so close. I thought that might affect the stitch. And so what I've done is I have gone to the back. This is where my thread came out. And then I'm kind of marking once again with my finger where I want the thread to go, and I'm kind of just like looping under the thread to kind of secure it a little bit so it's not affecting any of my stitches. I think that should be okay. Now we can go back to the front, see where I am. Oh yeah, that's perfect. So I'm going to bring it up to the second branch, and I'm going to put on, what did I do? I did opposite. So I want to put on red. So I'm going to thread 2 beads, push them down. See, that bead is too small, so I'm just going to remove it, put it to the side, and try another bead. That one works. I'm going to put it through, and then for this one, I'm just going to do a straight line and then come, let me see if I can do this where you can see it. I'm just going to come back down, go underneath the knits, and just go through that. I prefer to go through it twice with my needle, so I'm going to go through again. It gets a little bit harder each time you run it through though. But I want them to be very secure, especially since this is for my daughter who can play very rough. So then I'm gonna, once again, pick up my sweater and run that back through. And then bring it to the other branch and do the same thing. Only this time I'm gonna use purple beads. 2 purple beads. So if you are like me and don't like stress knitting and just want a relaxing Christmas, but are also kind of sad that you don't have a Christmas sweater, I wanted to give you a few ways that you could easily kind of Christmify your sweater in an evening or two. So the first way is obviously beads. I showed you how to do that earlier. You can always flip back if you need a little rehash. I think it would be really lovely. Like if you had, I feel like you could probably do this with any sweater, whether it's a Christmassy color or not. You could add some like lovely gold beads and kind of with a an ombre effect, like do a lot of gold beads up here around the collar and slowly fade down the yoke. And I think that would just be stunning. You could do, like if you had a cream sweater, you could do red, green, and gold beads or any colors you wanted really. But I think even if you had like a green sweater or a navy sweater and just did gold beads, I think that would be stunning. In fact, now that I'm talking about it, I kind of want to just add gold beads to some of my sweaters. And then you could use it for New Year's and on into January. It's always nice to have a little bit of sparkle in the dark, cold months. So that's the first way. The second way is adding like glitter thread or gold thread. This is actually something Rebecca Clow from Creabea did to her sweater, I believe. Last year, she just took gold thread and did little like embroidery stars, or I think she even just did like little crosses, but they look like stars. And with very similar, like kind of an ombre fade down her sweater, and she might have done some on the sleeves as well. And it was really simple. I think she said it took her like 2 hours, but it was stunning. And then after Christmas, she just, or I believe she also waited till like January, February, snipped them off. I think that would just be lovely. You could even do this with like a red glitter thread or any kind of like glitter thread. I think anything that just adds sparkle to your sweater really kind of Christmifies it and makes it beautiful. The third idea I had is using duplicate stitch. You could add some motifs. So I think this would be really cute to add, like if you have like a cream sweater, you could add like little green Christmas trees to the elbows with duplicate stitch, or you could do like a little gingerbread on the chest pocket, or really just any motif that you wanted, you could add somewhere. I think that, you know, the pocket placement, even there's no pocket, is kind of nice, or the elbows are really cute. Oh, I think it would be really lovely to do like some like holly and ivy around the neckline. There are so many ideas, and you could do this with duplicate stitch or just simple embroidery. Like I have an embroidery pattern for a snowflake that's really lovely. You could do some snowflakes around the collar or the pocket. The options are limited. Like whatever motif suits you, you could do. And I think that could really add some cute little holiday touches to sweaters. And then of course the fourth one is maybe just like a throwaway, but like I think just how you accessorize your knits really can give it the holiday vibe. I know a lot of people don't actually have holiday sweaters if they're not a knitter, and they just, you know, wear holiday-esque things around it. For instance, last year I did not have a Christmas sweater, but I wore my field sweater, which is like a rusty mustardy yellow, and I wore it with my red wool skirt and a little bow in my hair. And it was very Christmassy. I'll post a picture right here so you see. And I didn't feel like I was missing out. It felt very festive and holiday. And now, yeah, so even if you don't necessarily have a Christmas sweater, I think there are ways that you can still get the most use out of the knits you do have this holiday season. So I hope that inspired you a little bit to maybe tweak your knits or just accessorize in a way that is Christmassy. So that is all I have for you today, friends. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that your first week of Advent starts off well. I hope you get to make some memories with people that you love. I hope you get to just sit down and breathe. I hope you get plenty of warm coffee or warm tea. And now, yeah, all the best to you, Fiber friends. Happy Christmas.